This podcast is certified fresh. Freshmediaworks.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Marketing Drive. I'm Chris Daly, and this is the show where I use my commute time to talk about one actionable marketing idea, one tip, one trick, one tidbit to help you do better, make more money. And today, this episode is truly a marketing drive, emphasis on drive. I'm going to sort of take a departure from what I normally do, and I'm going to tell a story this time. And the focus here is on getting started. It all started in San Francisco, May 18th, 1903. At a gentleman's club on top of Nob Hill, 31-year-old doctor Horatio Nelson Jackson. He's sitting around there with some of his friends, and the conversation turns to what was a really popular conversation of the day. These newfangled horseless carriages, right? Are they the future, or they are just a rich man's toy destined to fade away? Well, Jackson thought it was the future. Someone else disagreed. Right there, on a whim, Jackson bet the guy $50, and this is 1903, so $50 is a big bet, that he could drive an automobile clear across the United States, San Francisco to New York, in under 90 days. Jackson didn't own a car. He had no driving experience. There were no road maps, no gas stations. In the entire country, there were only about 150 miles of paved road, and all of that was inside major cities, right? But he took the bet. 4 days. That's how long it took Jackson to go from, I'll take the bet, to actually leaving town. 4 days. He spent that time, he bought a slightly used 1903 Winton touring car, two-cylinder car, 20 horsepower, no roof, no windshield. It already had over 1,000 miles on it. I say slightly used. It was pretty used. And he paid more than it was worth because it was the only one he could find for sale. He named it the Vermont after his home state. He hired a young mechanic, former bicycle racer named Sewell Crocker to ride along because, again, Jackson barely knew how to drive. They ripped out the back seat. They packed it with sleeping bags, with tools, an axe, a shovel, ropes, spare parts, cans of gasoline, and a pile of firearms. And on May 23rd, they rolled on to the Oakland Ferry and pointed east. 15 miles in, they blow a tire. They had exactly one spare tire, the only one that was the right size in all of San Francisco. That's all they could locate. That was day one. And frankly, that set the tone for the whole thing. Let me give you just a highlight reel because I was watching a documentary, PBS documentary, and it was probably 2 hours long, and it was a litany of trouble. They blew tires constantly. When they ran out of tires, they literally wrapped rope around the bare wheels to keep driving. North of Sacramento, a woman gave them deliberately wrong directions, sending them 108 miles out of their way because she wanted her family to see the automobile. Nobody had seen one of these, right? These were brand new. And people did that more than once on the trip. They ran out of gas in the middle of nowhere more than once. They had to walk or borrow a bicycle to go find more. On the road to Cheyenne, they got lost their money, and went 36 hours without food. A month in, the car suffered a major breakdown that needed new parts shipped from the Winton factory in Ohio. So Jackson sat stuck there in Rawlins, Wyoming for 5 days, waiting on a train. And here's what I want you to hear. Through every bit of this, Jackson stayed relentlessly, almost comically optimistic. Stranded in Wyoming, he wrote to his wife, "Well, we've had hard luck, but I think it all came at once. The worst of it is over. We'll now try to make a record trip." You like the old-timey accent? That's a man broken down in a blacksmith shop in the high desert, writing home about the record he's about to set. Now, here's where it gets good for the marketing show, right? When Jackson wired the Winton company for those parts, the company found out about the bet. and the whole thing leaked. Suddenly, the press caught on, and suddenly other car makers saw an opportunity. So 2 competitors launched after him. Packard sent a car, Oldsmobile sent a car. Both of them started weeks after Jackson's trip, so they were behind the 8 ball, but both of them were backed by a manufacturer with money, with support, with crews. They actually staged supplies all along the way ahead of time. They were both driving faster machines. Jackson he had an old used Winton with worn wheels and ropes on the tires, right? Jackson was funding the whole thing himself. And by the end, it actually cost him, get this, around $8,000 to win a $50 bet. Now, if I remember right, I don't even think he ever collected. So now, he's not just racing the calendar, he's racing 2 better funded teams who had a lot of momentum, a lot of support, but a late start. It didn't matter. Jackson won. On July 26, 1903, 63 and a half days after leaving San Francisco, Horatio Jackson, Sewell Crocker, and a goggle-wearing bulldog named Bud rolled into New York City. Yeah, they picked up Bud in, I think it was Idaho. He bought him for $15 and put goggles on him just like they had, and he rode the whole rest of the way. Their vehicle became the first automobile to ever cross the country. The well-funded teams that started after him finished behind him. Yes, I think one of them cut off a few days in the length, so they did it faster. But the point is, they still were not the first to do it anymore. So why am I telling you this on a marketing show? Because the lesson here is not, look, the underdog wins, right? The lesson is more simple, but it's a tougher one. Jackson won simply because he started. He started without the car, without the experience, without the maps, without the funding, all the things the other guys had. He started before any reasonable person would have said he was ready. That head start, though, that willingness to just go was worth way more than the 2 better cars and the 2 corporate sponsorships combined. The Packard and the Oldsmobile teams had everything Jackson didn't. Better equipment, deeper pockets, professional support, professional drivers, and they lost because they started late. You know where I'm going with this, right? Maybe you've been thinking about launching a product or a service or finally writing a book or starting a podcast you've been talking about for 2 years, and you're waiting until you have the better gear, the bigger budget, the clearer map, until you feel ready. There's an old saying I'm sure you've heard, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Jackson didn't have a single advantage except one. He left the driveway. He pointed the car east, and he figured out the rest as the road came to him. The tires blew, the parts broke, people pointed him the wrong way. He kept his eyes forward and his optimism intact, and he made it into the history books while the better equipped competition was still catching up. Now, your version of this doesn't require a cross-country drive. It requires you to start before you're ready, because ready is a place you reach on the road, not a place before you leave. So whatever it is you've been circling, launch the thing, record that first episode, write that first chapter, plant that tree. The second best time is today. Gosh, I want to thank you so much for tuning in and giving me what I consider the most valuable gift you can, your time, your attention. Get out there,
You've
get
been listening
started,
to The Marketing Drive
keep it
with
real.
Chris Daly. To learn more about how Chris can help your company get more customers, call 713-269-4620 or visit us on the web at freshmediaworks.com.